I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education for the School District of Baraboo to order for Monday, April the 25th, 2016, with roll call. Mr. Cummings is not here. Mr. Coleman?
Here.
Mr. McNevin?
Here.
Mr. Mearing?
Here.
Mr. Mortimer is not here. Ms. Riley?
Here.
And Mr. Vedro is not here. Bodak here. Continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is to the right of the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the board minutes from the last meeting of April the 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Riley, seconded by McNevin. Any discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I am present, but I will be abstaining from the vote.
Thank you. Thus, the minutes are approved. Brings us to board reorganization. First off, we have the oath of office for Mr. Coleman, who is with us for the first time tonight. Congratulations on your election
Thank you.
and your seat at the table. And Mr. Cummings would normally do the oath as the clerk, but he's working in the fields tonight, so we have garnered our vice president to do the same.
Okay, raise your right hand. I, repeat your name,
I, Kevin Bodak,
have been elected to the office of the Board of Education
have
Been elected to the office of the Board of Education
of the School District of Baraboo,
of the School District of Baraboo.
swear or affirm
Swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of said office to the best of my ability,
of said office to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Okay, and here's your copy that you will need to sign, and yours to make you official. Congratulations.
Before we get to the board reorganization, there are a number of adjustments to the agenda that I would like to bring forth to the board. The first is under the approval of new hires under personnel. A third position is Eric Poff for the Family and Consumer Science position here at the high school. Under the approval of resignations, there's a second addition of Liam Dale, who is the high school English teacher. And then under C for approval of postings, it would be for two positions for the high school English department. And then I would like you to add D, so we can act upon a long-term sub, and that is at Al Bierman, fourth grade, Lori Little Soldier. So I would entertain a motion for the acceptance of the adjustments to the agenda.
I move to accept the adjustments to the agenda as stated.
I'll second.
Having a motion and a second, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Brings us then to board reorganization. Continuing on with the election of officers, I'll open the floor.
I move to approve for President Kevin Bodak.
Second.
Having a motion and having a second. Are there any other nominations for president? Are there any other nominations for president? Hearing no other nominations, I would then close the position offered up for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Brings us then to vice president. I would entertain a motion for vice president of the board.
I'd like to nominate Doug Mearing as vice president of the school board.
Is there a second?
I'd second.
Having a motion by Riley, seconded by Coleman. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Any other nominations for vice president? Any other nominations for vice president? Hearing none, I thus close the nominations. Those in favor of Doug Mearing for vice president signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Doug. Brings us to clerk, which should be interesting, seeing as how Mr. Cummings isn't here.
I think you should take
I think we
clerk,
should give
treasurer, and board recorder.
Just saying, give him a special office, so. I move to approve Gary for clerk.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and a second for Gary Cummings for board clerk, are there any other nominations for board clerk? Any other nominations for board clerk? Any other nominations for board clerk? Hearing none, I'd like to close the nominations. Those in favor of Gary Cummings for the board clerk signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to board treasurer. Open up for nominations for board treasurer.
I move to approve Sean McNevin as board treasurer.
I'll second that.
Having a motion by Meering, seconded by Riley for Sean McNevin as the board treasurer. Are there any other nominations for board treasurer? Any other nominations for board treasurer? Any other nominations for board treasurer? Hearing none, I'd like to close the nominations. Those in favor of Sean McNevin as board treasurer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to board recorder. Open up for nominations for board recorder.
I move to approve Ellen Wheeland as our board recorder.
I'll second.
Having a motion by Meering, seconded by Riley, for Ellen Wyland as our board recorder. Are there any other nominations for board recorder? Any other nominations for board recorder? Any other nominations for board recorder? Hearing none. Those in favor of Ellen Wyland continuing as our board recorder, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations to those officers and to Ellen. Brings us then to correspondence, of which administrative correspondence was included in your packet. And also, there was some correspondence from some board members and the administration from Jack Megan in regards to the referendum. I will forward that email to the rest of the board, so you haven't seen it, and then it can be admitted for with the record. Any other correspondence?
I have one additional one. I received a correspondence regarding the fact that on behalf of the META, which not quite sure, I'm sorry what that acronym is, Board of Directors and Brainstorm Steering Committee, I'd like to acknowledge our technology professional, Mike Pullen, for his contribution as roundtable facilitator at the Brainstorm 2016 conference in the Dalles. It is because of individuals like Mike who share their successes and project knowledge with their peers that Brainstorm has become the foremost purely technical conference dedicated to K-20 educational technology community. So Mike is over there. Congratulations, Mike, and thank you. What does META stand for? Do you know?
Midwest Educational Technology Association, a group of
Yeah.
tech coordinators and tech folks around La Crosse who coordinate this brainstorm presentation, the brainstorm conference.
Thank you.
Folks from 5 states come to the brainstorm. It's a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal. Thank you.
Having no other correspondence?
I have
brings-
one other
Okay, sorry,
correspondence,
Mr.
and it's in the packet. It was from Michelle Miller regarding our family and consumer science teachers. And I think other board members received it too. So.
I think we all did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other correspondence from the board? Hearing none, brings us to the agenda item entitled Public Viewpoints. Is there anyone here for public viewpoints tonight? Any public viewpoints? Any public viewpoints? Hearing none, I'd like to turn then to the part of our agenda, which is always the highlight of the evening, and that is staff, student, and community recognitions. And for that, I will turn it over to Ms. Miller.
Yeah, and before we get started, I'm sorry that we're taking a lot of time, but we're gonna take a lot of time to recognize some of the things that are going on in our district. I think this speaks well to the talent that our high-quality staff brings to the district, the amount of talent we have in our students. If you look out here, there are a lot of students here tonight because of the good work that they're doing, and it's very exciting to see a room full of students and to know that we're here to celebrate you and all the work that you've been doing. I think it also speaks to the investment that the board has made in gifted and talented services. We're getting a number of our kids the opportunity to compete at higher levels, and so that's what you're going to hear about tonight. So we're going to start with the Yahara River Riders, and tonight Chris Zick is here to represent. So if Chris and her students could come forward, that would be great.
So these girls are 2 of the 4 winners from our school district who entered into a really neat writing contest called the Yahara River Writers Contest. And school districts who are part of the Greater Dane County Advanced Learners Network can participate in this. So we're very gracious for that opportunity. Students can enter any category from cartooning, editorial, short story, and poetry. And the top 10 are then selected to attend UW-Madison, Union South. Big conference, they hear a keynote speaker, it's usually an author of some sort, and they go to a breakout session and learn more about whatever writing category they entered in, and then they receive an award. So we're really proud this year to have 2 6th grade. These girls are 6th grade girls, Anna Jansen and Mackenzie Gruner, and they both entered in cartooning. And then we're bringing along 2 other students who aren't here tonight. Tegan Londo is a 7th grader, and she entered in poetry, I believe, and Tiana Kunkel entered in short story. So we're very, very proud. We've never brought 4 kids with us to Madison, so we're really excited about it. And all the students will receive an anthology on the day that they go to the seminar. So girls will be getting, and it's just a collection of all the writing from all the winners. So it's a really neat opportunity. So congratulations, girls.
No. All in your writing, that's all that matters. Chris, I want to share a certificate of appreciation from all of us for your work with our students. It takes a good leader and a skilled teacher too to teach them those writing skills that takes them above their peers in other school districts, so thank you. And I have a medal for each of you. Congratulations. Thank you. I'm looking forward to those cartoons next year. Our next recognition is for the 2016 Wisconsin Dairyland Programming Competition, and for that I have Dan Rohde and Mike Pullen and a whole bunch of students here, so I'll turn it over to Dan and Mike.
Thank you. We are very excited to share with you the results from a coding competition at Marquette University. And I can say with some confidence that we're the first group from Baraboo to go to a coding competition, because coding competitions are so new. This has only been around for 4 years, so this whole area of computer science is just exploding. And we're lucky, and I'm lucky to be in a district that's right on the cutting edge, and Baraboo is on the cutting edge. And we took a team to the competition in the Scratch division. There are 2 divisions in this contest, the Scratch division and the Java division. We took a group of coders using Scratch. Scratch is a block-based programming language where they move these blocks of code and put them together like puzzle pieces to solve problems. And it's really easy to get started, but it has a really high ceiling, and you can really do some very advanced programs. In fact, we're going to have a demo of one today. And it's not, we teach it as part of our Exploring Computer Science class, but it's not just for beginners. If you go to Harvard and you learn computer science, their first class, CS50, starts with Scratch. So this is a powerful language and a great tool. We took 18 coders. We had 9 teams in the Scratch division of the 37 total teams there. It's still new and it's still hard to get teams, and we made an incredible showing and had lots of teams. Look at who we're competing against too. These are some of the wealthiest school districts in the state. Brookfield West, Brookfield Central, Whitefish Bay, Waukesha, Wauwatosa, Janesville Craig, Janesville Parker, Milwaukee University School, which they pay $20,000 per kid to go there. Whitewater, Verona. These are elite schools. These are the schools that are able to spend more per student than we could even dream of spending. And we showed them what Baraboo's about. We placed first in the Scratch division. We placed 4th in the Scratch division. We had the most creative team, and we traveled the furthest. We cleaned up the leaderboard. And just to show you a little bit about what Scratch is like, we have Evan from, here to show one of the projects that he and Philip made. Oh, Philip, did you want to come up too? Sure. Come on down, Philip. And I'm going to turn it over to them.
our version of Space Invaders, and we changed it a little, so now it's a Star Wars.
Oh.
Why don't you show them the code that makes it go?
And explain it all.
Get comfy.
So the ship, when you press the left arrow, it moves left, and the right arrow moves right. Space broadcasts a message that goes to the laser, that tells the laser to start as a clone, and when it does that, it'll shoot up. And we have more like, this is the movement of them going across the screen. And this here is, if they touch the laser, they'll go away.
Awesome. You want to show the music one? You want to show the music one?
Sure. Yeah. So we have this one, which you had to make a instrument that was interactive. So we used the home row to just play some sounds. But then you can also click these 3 different buttons and it plays piano one. My favorite's this one. We had to code all of that too.
And how long did you have to code all this?
We had 3 hours for
And how many
5
challenges?
different live challenges.
So these are 2 of the 5 challenges they had to code in 3 hours.
Each of these notes had to be programmed individually. Most of them were done by Evan because he actually knows the sheet music.
Very cool.
And you said what class you learned this in? What class?
Exploring computer science, which is a great segue. Don't mind me just doing a little push. There is an
You don't
opportunity.
need to do this push, it'll happen.
Next year, there's going to be an opportunity to propose to the District Curriculum Council a Java class. And Java is the next logical step for a program to build upon. It's a much more rigorous, challenging language, and an AP CSA class is available that teaches Java. And there also is a Java division to this competition. And as you can see, it's really hard. A lot of the teams didn't score a single point in the Java division. And I would love to knock down these Brookfield schools up there and see some Baraboo up there near the top. So, and what was the prize in the Java division?
First place was a Raspberry Pi 3, which is a miniature computer, not edible.
There were some cool prizes. So,
Fantastic.
do all the people who are in the competition want to come up? We have several people from the competition here.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me first do certificates of appreciation. Mr. Rohde, you've only been here a few months and you are changing this building and this school district. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Yeah. Mike, it's easy to take you for granted because you're always in the background of things. Thank you for investing your time with our students in this
My
way.
pleasure. These are my people.
So I have medals for everybody, and I too want to see you take down Brookfield, okay? So make sure you wear these next year. When you go to the competition, it's a way to intimidate your opposing teams. They'll be like, what are those? How do I get one of those? Okay. There you go. Sorry.
There was an award given to the best dressed team, and I'm thinking this might move us toward the top of
This
that.
might
Oh, yeah, sure.
There were people in shirts and ties. This was pretty fancy.
They stopped us at Tripler on the way.
Oh, then clearly.
Thank you. All right. And we have one more, because we just have another competition that our students just came back, so I'm gonna turn that over to Greg Manson to talk about our Future Business Leaders of America.
Good evening, everybody. Very excited to talk to you guys about what FBLA has been doing lately. FBLA stands for Future Business Leaders of America. We had one heck of a bumper crop this year because not only did we break records for ourselves as our chapter, but we also are sending some kids out to the national level. We took third this year at regionals, which is pretty prestigious in itself. We had over 20 kids qualify to go state this year. And then of those 20 kids, we had 4 individual students qualify for national level. One was Josh Ennis Miller. He qualified in agribusiness. He took a test that was around the agriculture industry, new trends in economics, market structures, future casting. And then we also had one other group of students. They took second place in emerging business issues. That was Liam Tabor, Nick Brooks, and then their third partner is going to be coming in a little bit, was Alex Carpenter. They did pretty well in their event. When they went up there to present, I was pretty sure that they were going to take first, but second was pretty good as well. So I was very impressed with our sophomores. Later on, we're going to go ahead and hear a presentation from them. I think you guys are going to be really impressed. If they were any better, I know I'd say they're dangerous.
Do you guys want to say anything, gentlemen? Or are you saving it for later in the agenda?
Saving it up a little bit.
Okay, that's okay. Greg, thank you. Again, you're going above and beyond, and you've only been here a couple of years yourself, and you're changing everything as well. And we have medals for you guys as well. Very sharp dress. There you go. Thank you, gentlemen.
Brings us to agenda item continuous school improvement and the high school emergency medical services course and student certifications. Michelle Bartman, Chris Feiberg, Brian Kaiser, and some students are with us tonight to talk about that program and that course.
All right, well, these are our instructors. So this is our first year, actually, for our EMS program. Pretty brand new to the state. We're only the 10th and 11th classes, since we're only 2 classes here this year. We're only the 10th and 11th classes in the state. I think the 4th or 5th high school, I believe, in the state to even be doing it. So this is something that's fairly new in the state of Wisconsin as far as EMS programs go. So the whole goal, this is what 2 years in the making for us. Coming here and talking with you guys to get the big push, and finally it happened this year. So we're now halfway through, 3/4 of the way through our first go around with the students. They've now started their ride time on the ambulance, so they're now not just going to the classroom part, but getting to use what they've learned in the classroom out in the field now. So they're riding along with our paramedics here in the service. So hopefully you might see them out and about riding around in an ambulance, so say hi. Anyways, it's been...
Don't see them out and about.
We'll be lying down looking up at you.
You don't want to meet them in an
It's been a little bit of trial and error for us. This has been something brand new for Chris and I, teaching adolescent learners versus adult learners. We've been doing the adult education side with our training center for over 5 years, I believe it is. So having adult learners that are all college age or older has definitely been a little bit different than coming to the high school setting where we have to deal with a much more time crunched evolution versus our classes for the adult learners go 4 hours, and we're cramming them into an hour-and-a-half block 2 or 3 times a week. So they've got a little bit of work cut out for them outside of the classroom, but I think overall it's been going relatively well. I think the biggest advantage to this class is it allows those that are thinking about going into the medical profession, gives them that opportunity ahead of time to kind of try it out and see if it's something they like. We've had a few students, a handful, probably 3 or 4, that started the class with intentions of going into something medical and got into it and they're like, this isn't for me, I don't want to do this. They stuck it out, they're still in the class getting a grade, but at least they're not going on to the college level and paying for boatloads of college classes and money and finding out it's not for them. So they can kind of gear their lives towards a different career path, which is kind of what it's all been about. We knew that going into this, the majority of our students probably will never ride in the ambulance full-time as a job. It's kind of a stepping stone to those that want to go into nursing or be a doctor or chiropractor or whatever else in the medical profession. So it's kind of been that stepping stone for a lot of them. I think so far it's been going relatively well. Chris, you have anything to add?
Sure. Okay. I'm not going to talk about the program, but I would like to talk about our champion. We are very fortunate to have a liaison. I don't know how many categories to give her. She's also a student in the class, along with her regular teaching load. But I want to lift Michelle Bartman up and talk about that. She has been our champion. This would not have happened without her energy and her support. Literally, so many good things came together to get this program going and to keep it sustained. Any one piece missing, probably we wouldn't have a success story to tell right now. But one of our biggest allies, one of our greatest achievements was having the assistance of Michelle Bartman to keep this class going, to keep us on track, and to help us deal with the myriad of emotions and the psyche, help us deal with the psyche of an adolescent as we go through this, because we're in a learning phase as well. So I can't say enough good things about her, and we really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to her finally earning her EMT license along with all the other students. So.
I have to outscore the students, that's the.
Scary, isn't it?
Very close.
Yeah, it has been, actually. So we've got 24 students in our inaugural class this year, and it's been really fantastic. I think about 3/4 of them will be eligible for registry. So to be eligible for registry, you have a number of different things you have to do. You have to get an 80% or better on all the exams, and they are tough exams. So we spend a lot of time breaking down questions, scenario-based questions, where you encounter a patient and what would you do first? What is the most important thing you do? And they all seem like such good options. You know, like there's so many ways to help and try to figure out the best way to do it. So it's been really fun to see the students. They have really risen to the occasion. I have been so impressed with them. I mean, this is a whole new level of learning and understanding and doing. I mean, so when I first agreed to help with the class, I was under the impression that we were the equivalent of like first responders. So we keep you alive until the real people show up. And I was telling Lori, turns out we're the real people. I didn't know that. So, we're it, right?
Clarify that.
The kids were a little bit surprised to know that too, but it's been really amazing. And they're all seniors, which is wonderful because they're all going on in school. We have some students who are wanting to become paramedics, so that is their plan, and they're heading to MATC next year. We have students who are just majoring in the sciences. We have students who are going into nursing, students who are going into medicine, and students who have no idea what they want to do. But at least this way they have this amazing skill to give back to their community and to be employed as well. We found a number of different really amazing scholarship options for them. If you're a certified EMT basic and you can run on the ambulance rigs at a couple different universities, they will give you additional scholarships to offset your tuition. But I think that the most amazing thing has been watching the pace. I mean, these guys have been fantastic. I mean, and they go because you can't not cover a topic. You don't get to like stop in the middle and be like, you don't really need to know, hemorrhaging, like, and so they have just gone, and these kids have really just jumped in and gone. We're also doing additional revisions for next year. Next year is it final, the double block? Okay, so next year we've asked for a double block with these kids. So these kids will be with us for 3 hours every other day instead of an hour and a half to incorporate more skills-based and more ability to kind of do that hands-on piece. The kids we have, they're the doers, and so they're in like 8 amazingly hard classes, and they're in all these sports and everything else, and now we're asking them to get 10 patient contacts for ambulance ride-alongs, which you can do an 8-hour shift somebody got 0, you know, which is wonderful that our community is so healthy. But a real bummer when you gotta get to 10. So we're really trying to work with them and find a way to make this a little bit more accessible to the average student. But they have really, you should be so proud of them. They have just really risen to the occasion. So it's been fantastic. And in fact, I brought one. This is Rachel. And so Rachel, you are where? Have you done ride-along yet?
Yeah, I did one ride along.
Okay. What's the best part of the class?
Did you have patience? Yeah, I had 2.
We all get back and we talk about them, let's say, we don't tell names, we're like, one of our students got a heroin overdose, and it was all the rage. We were all excited. So, because it's just things we talk about, things we have to be prepared for. You know, we got to see it. So, what's the best part of the class so far?
Definitely learning like different skills that we'll need later on in life. Like I want to go into nursing, so it's definitely a good helping little block for that.
And the most challenging part of the class?
Well, we got like a 1,500-page textbook the first day of class, and
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to read all the pages? You have to read all the pages, right?
well, kind of if you want to do well.
Oh, okay.
We cover the whole textbook in a semester.
Just to give you a general idea how much work these students are going through. So the first time we met prior to the semester starting, we had talked about putting together an objectives page and study guide and all that for the students. So our first objective download, I guess the easiest way to say it, that we gave to Dr. Bartman. She opened it, and it only opened the first 2 pages, so that's as far as she thought it was. So it was like, oh, that's not bad, it's only 2 pages. I'm like, no, it's not 2 pages. So when she finally downloaded and opened it, it was 257 pages. She goes, oh, well, that's not bad for the entire semester. I said, no, that's unit 1.
And for about 10 minutes after in the meeting, all I could say was 257. Okay, okay, 257. Okay, we can do this, 257. So it's.
So they have 8 units, so in each unit is about that size. So yeah, they've had their work cut out for them. They've all embraced it and taken it in stride.
I think that this particular course really demonstrates that community partnership that we're striving for as part of our district strategic plan, where there's a deep level of engagement from our community members in our classrooms with our students, and same for the student engagement and teacher engagement, and working together to really provide some great opportunities for our students and families. And just had a meeting last week with these 2 gentlemen to talk about the next idea. You know, Chris came to, I think it was Glenn and I, a couple years ago. Was it just last year, maybe? And that's how we ended up having this course. And now Chris has come back with another idea that we're going to be bringing forward for your consideration to start training our staff members to be first responder, emergency medical responders. And so do you want to make any comments about that, Chris? Share your dream?
I'll embellish a little bit. We are always interested, whenever we go to a large facility, of having people on the inside. Everyone at the ambulance service knows Baraboo High School, Baraboo Middle School. We know all the schools, but still, it's quite a large facility. And in the spirit of trying to get help to someone when they need it the most, minutes count, we understand the school has a BERT team, and Diane Cohn has done a wonderful job with that. We would like to assist and augment that by enabling with licensure, giving some of the teachers, staff that wish to participate, give them an opportunity to become a licensed emergency medical responder and actually form a formal group within each school, have a handful of emergency medical responders in each school. If you take it and play with that concept, you can think about it on any given day. You can have any number of emergencies. Thankfully, this doesn't happen usually, but in the spirit of being prepared, I think this is a great opportunity for Baraboo School District to have trained licensed professionals to assist students or staff if there's an actual emergency going on. That buys a little extra time before we get there. So Dr. Barton was talking about, she thought she was going to be the one that does things until the real people get here. Now we're actually looking at forming a group of people that does those things until the ambulance actually gets on scene. I can't express the value added is to have first responders, knowledgeable licensed first responders that can do some level of advanced skill in life-saving to sustain someone who's had a life-threatening emergency while we're waiting for the sirens in the distance to get louder and louder and people to finally show up on scene, so.
Yeah. So we'll be coming forward with a proposal for you to consider in the near future. Any other questions for this group? No?
Yeah, you know, obviously this is a great collaboration, and again, I'm not sure where other communities are, but has there been a issue with shortages of EMTs in the past?
Yes. What's that?
State of Wisconsin, 72, 76, something like that. In the last 3 years, we've lost 76 ambulance services. Throughout the state, just from shortage of volunteers, shortage of people wanting to do the training, things like that. Unfortunately, being in EMS, that nobody gets into it for the money, so a lot of people, you know, with burnout and everything else and things like that, people just moved on to other things. So yes, there was a huge shortage, including the fact that losing just 76 ambulance services over the course of 3 years throughout our state. Which again, as part of the program, we found a couple of universities doing programs like that to get, hey, we've got these kids in our area for the next 4 years.
Sure.
Why not, you know, use them and then we'll give them money for college for helping out. So I think there's certain places trying to augment it, but it's only in certain places where they've got people. We've got a lot of small communities out there where there's 200-300 people living in the closest ambulance 45 minutes away, so there's definitely a huge shortage.
Okay, so, I mean, this is a definite benefit to our community, to our students, so, I mean, and again, that's what we want to do with our partnerships is, you know, getting our students ready, not only for their careers, but also, you know, that we're benefiting the community. So this is obviously nailing it on both, so thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure with you too. And Michelle, you're awesome. I was gonna see if she let me know.
Brings us to personnel recommendation. The first is the approval of new hires, and the number one is the school nurse position, Lindsay Brem. Entertaining motion for the hire of Lindsay.
I move to approve Lindsay Brent as our school nurse.
I'll second that. Where will she operate from?
She covers 4 of our elementary buildings.
Having a motion by Mearing, seconded by Riley. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to the high school art teacher position, Melanie Mools.
Have background checks been completed?
It's pending. She was out. She had an out of state, so her in state came back clear. We're just waiting on that out of state. So your motion can be pending that background check.
I'll make that motion pending that out-of-state background check.
Second.
Motion by Riley, seconded by Mearing, to approve the hire contingent upon the out-of-state background check. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to number 3, Eric Pop, for the family consumer science position here at the high school.
I move to approve Eric Poff as our family and consumer science teacher for the high school.
Second.
Having a motion by Mearing, seconded by McNevin. Any discussion or questions?
No, just a general point is I'm really excited that we're bringing Eric on board, as I'm sure Glenn and the rest of the staff at the high school are. Again, it's just certainly so critical, just as we've heard here, as our students are moving on, that we need to continue to work with our programs, work with obviously Eric and others in that department, so that our students do have those career skills, the licenses and so forth moving forward. So really looking forward to moving this program forward with Eric and others.
Anything else?
Background checks being.
That's pending as well, so you can, yes, please.
And we can add that too. So,
Okay, so
Another person who's been out of state, so.
having a motion by Mearing, offering an amendment for completion of the background check. Is that correct, Doug?
Yes, I accept.
And that would have been seconded by Mr. McNevin. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to B, approval of resignations, first of which is the high school English teacher position. Amanda Jamay. Entertaining motion for that acceptance of resignation.
I move to accept the resignation of Amanda Jamay.
Second that.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by Riley. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. And lastly, under resignations as part of our adjusted agenda, Liam Dale from the high school English position.
Move to accept William Dale's resignation.
Second.
Motion by Riley, seconded by Mearing. Any discussion?
How many English teachers have we lost in the past 3 years?
In the past 3 years?
1, 2, 3, 4. And how many do we have total?
8.
Those young ladies keep on writing. They need them to start teaching pretty soon.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, having a motion and a second for the hire, or the acceptance of the resignation of Liam Dale. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Then brings us to C, which would be the approval of the posting for the 2 high school English teacher positions.
I move to approve the posting for 2 teachers for the high school, English.
Second.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Then brings us to D, the approval of a long-term sub position at Al Bierman for 4th grade, Lori Little Soldier.
I move to approve the 4th grade sub Lori Little Soldier.
Second.
Having a motion by Mearing, seconded by McNevin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to new business. First up is A, the approval of the Future Business Leaders of America Association Nationals trip. And we're going to let them stand before us once again.
So, as we were talking before, FBLA is a pretty competitive organization. We operate on the national level. It brings kids in from all over the nation. It's designed to teach kids on leadership skills, communication skills, and build on existing community partnerships. The kids that are presenting today have spent the last several months preparing a topic on an emerging business issue. This evening, they decided to present their issue on the emerging tech field for the legal and ethical implications related to jailbreaking device. I personally feel that this group is going to be this year's national champions. And I feel it would send a powerful message back to just about everybody that's involved about what Baraboo is doing to create a college and career-ready student. So when they're presenting today, I just want you to think about, the things that they're doing, how they're presenting, the way they're approaching the topic, and I think you'll see it's a very powerful message, and it's worth investing in.
Can we just start? All right. In the past few decades, the entertainment industry has undergone considerable amount of changes, ranging from the revolutionary switch to television to the more subtle shift to online streaming. These alterations have increased both consumer interest and demand for the best and newest products on the market, creating a more buyer-conscious economy. However, the trend of consumer power did not stop there. Over the last several years, more and more users have begun to adopt the practices of jailbreaking and unlocking their devices. These practices, despite how common they are widely opposed by large businesses and manufacturers of cellular and tablet devices. Today we will discuss the moral and legal implications of such practices, as well as the benefits and drawbacks for both the consumer and producer of these products. We'll start by defining exactly what jailbreaking and unlocking are.
Jailbreaking, simply put, is the process of bypassing Apple's digital rights management restrictions in order to make modifications to the operating system. Essentially, it is a hack that allows unsigned code to be run on the device. Jailbreaking allows the user to download apps from third-party sources, modify the look and feel of the operating system, may perform some morally and legally ambiguous actions that we'll go into later.
Most phones are locked when purchased, with the exception of those specifically titled unlocked. Essentially, a locked device is a device with a software code installed that restricts the cellular use of that device to the company from where it was purchased. Unlocking is a process of removing that software code to allow the device to be used with any carrier.
Now, as you have probably noticed over the last decade or so, there's been a large increase in both the availability and launch of smartphones. Naturally, this has had many repercussions, both positive and negative.
In today's day and age, where the explosion of technological advancement has blurred the lines of technical legality, the implications of jailbreaking a device are not so clear. Due to the widespread availability of jailbreaking software, users can now jailbreak the devices without the fear or stress of breaking that was present just a few years ago. Because of free programs like Pangu, all a person needs to jailbreak the device is a computer and an active internet connection. However, there is another side to this. Because more and more people are jailbreaking their devices, there are an increasing amount of false sites that promise easy jailbreak, while in reality, they contain malware that could harm or incapacitate your device. It can be hard to determine if a site is legitimate, so it's always best to stick with well-known sites like Pangu.
The availability of unlocking software is very similar to the availability of jailbreaking software. With the availability of software being so large and numerous, some sites are in fact legitimate and trustworthy, while others are not.
Moving on from secondary repercussions resulting from jailbreaking and unlocking, let us now discuss the more formal consequences. We will now discuss the legal implications of unlocking or jailbreaking your device.
While jailbreaking your device can yield many benefits for the user, this can also result in some fairly heavy penalties. For example, while jailbreaking an Apple device does allow the user to modify the look and feel of the operating system to their will, such as adding 5 icons to the dock instead of 4, this also voids their warranty. This means that Apple will no longer provide support or assistance for the device, let alone repair or replace it.
There are a few potential penalties still around since unlocking was made legal in 2015. One of these penalties is a potential to brick your phone. A bricked phone, simply stated, is that your phone won't turn on and there's nothing you can do to fix it. However, this has a very slight chance of actually happening.
Next, we'll discuss the legal implications of unlocking or jailbreaking your device.
Although large companies like Apple strongly oppose this decision, in 2010, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA, added the Apple iPhone to its list of anti-circumvention exemptions, meaning that strictly speaking, the actual process of jailbreaking an iPhone is legal. According to an article published by the Electronic Frontier Foundation in 2010, this exemption was granted because the act of jailbreaking falls into the DMCA's fair use policy. The DMCA states that when one jailbreaks a smartphone in order to make the operating system of that phone interoperable with an independently created application not approved by the maker of the smartphone or the maker of its operating system, the modifications made purely for the purpose of such interoperability are fair uses. Essentially what this means is as long as the intention of the jailbreaking is legal, the act is legal. However, it is worthy of note that this exemption only applied to the Apple iPhone, and it was not until 2015 that the Apple iPad was added to the list of exemptions, as at the time, the Library of Congress ruled the term tablet was too general to rule.
As far as unlocking goes, unlocking a device through your carrier is perfectly legal as long as you cooperate with them and follow all the rules and restrictions. Doing it yourself is a different matter. Prior to 2012, unlocking was a more or less legal practice. However, in 2012, the DMCA removed unlocking from its list of exemptions, making it illegal. But in August of 2014, President Barack Obama signed the Unlocking Consumer Choice and Wireless Competition Act into law, and so the Library of Congress met once again to issue a slew of new technological provisions, including the addition of unlocking to the exemption list once more. So as of now, unlocking is legal.
The final issue that we will address are the ethical implications of unlocking or jailbreaking your smartphone.
While jailbreaking your device has the potential to be harmful to both you and your device, it is also a morally dubious practice. Not only does it void your warranty and bypass specifically placed manufacturer protocols and restrictions, but it also allows users to download apps from third-party sources. Besides possibly compromising the safety of your device, this also robs Apple of a portion of the profits they would have received from downloading the app from the official App Store.
If the consumer uses unlocking in the proper way, it is completely ethical. This proper way is to unlock your device for the sole purpose of receiving cellular coverage where your current provider does not already offer. But if the consumer uses it for the purpose of less expensive cellular rates, this is unethical and jams up the carrier's revenue stream.
In summary, both jailbreaking and unlocking a device can have heavy implications for both the user and manufacturer or carrier. And while the actual acts of jailbreaking and unlocking are strictly legal, widespread company opposition and long-term consequences for the actions may dissuade many users from attempting these practices. We personally advocate for individual freedom of the user, and while we fully support the right of the company to penalize the user for any modifications made outside of the signed contract, we do not support the prospect of legal implications for infringements on this contract. Conclusively, we believe that it is both completely legal and ethical to unlock or jailbreak your device.
So, pretty powerful stuff. Like I said, if they were any better, it'd be scary. They've come a long ways. They started that topic from the ground up. I mean, did you guys know anything about jailbreaking and unlocking devices before we started? Not much.
I didn't.
Same man, but I don't know what your guys' background knowledge was either, but I'm not gonna lie, like I actually learned a lot from their presentation. So.
I was just keeping a close eye on my phone. And they were eyeing it up.
I always kind of ask that if you guys want to field questions or objections, it's always great practice for them. So if you had any comments that you want to make, recommendations.
Well, it's just a question. I mean, obviously, the Apple is obviously big in the news with the terrorism action. Does the recent thing where they were trying to break into that phone, does that entail into this jailbreaking issue that you're talking about?
Not exactly, because what they were trying to do is they were trying to hack into the phone because it had a password on it.
Sure.
What jailbreaking is downloading another OS onto the smartphone in order to modify and access like the README files on the phone.
Sure.
And so it's a little bit of a different process than actually like trying to break into the phone. And unlocking is simply allowing the phone to be used with any other carrier.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different issue, but still.
Well, best of luck to you. You guys have done great work, and will show Baraboo proud, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Greg, can you share just a little bit about the dates of the trip? Because you do need to approve their trip since it's overnight and out of state. Can you just share some of those details
so
real quickly?
we'd be leaving June 29th and then coming back on July 2nd. It's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia this year. Every year, Nationals change. Next year will be in Anaheim, California. So hopefully we can go again then too. I'm all about going to Disneyland. When we're there, they are going to be doing their presentation in front of a round of judges. There will be several preliminary rounds that they'll go through. On top of it, they're also going to be exposed to leadership conferences, some trainings, workshops, and then the exposure on the national level is just great for building a networking and stuff like that. Those connections will last the rest of your life. So, I mean, that's the biggest component of it. We hope that we're able to get the funding that we need to go on the trip. It is fairly expensive. We're looking at about $1,072 per student right now. We're hoping to maybe get that cost down through travel expenses and stuff like that. But that's the majority of it. I don't know if you guys had any specific questions I can answer for you. I'd love to do so.
Well, I just want to make sure that the board understands the funding piece. So, this is an activity, they are working to fundraise for this because they didn't anticipate this success. And so it's a short amount of time for fundraising. They just kicked off something through PAIR today. And hopefully a lot of individuals will contribute to that. But we do have dollars available in our Gifted and Talented account to support them if they were unable to come up with all the funds that they need. And Mr. Manson and I have talked about future planning, that we'll always plan forward with fundraising to make sure that we anticipate a trip to nationals moving forward. So just be aware that, approval is committing those dollars if they were unable to. And I do think that's a good use of Gifted and Talented dollars because of the leadership experience that they will be participating while they're there. And that is one area of giftedness that we should be supporting as a district.
Move to approve.
Second.
Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Meering. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have a gifted meeting coming up, and I think that'd be something, as our advisory committee, just to talk about that too. It's like, where is this really good? And I believe it is. And I believe the advisory committee will agree.
Any further discussion?
Thank you very much.
Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion
Nice job,
carried.
guys. Good job.
Bring back the trophy.
Brings us then to new business approval of disbursements. Chair of Finance, Mr. McNevin.
Well, the next 6 items were discussed in great detail at Finance Committee, and it received unanimous support from me. But nobody else was at the meeting, so we're bringing all the items forward to the board, as we would have anyway, but I move to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Meering for the approval of the disbursements as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Back to Mr. McNevin for the food service prices.
Slight adjustment in food service prices. Those food service prices are set at the lunch, at the lunchtime by the federal government, correct, Bob?
Yeah, it's just, we have to hit a minimum cost.
And so our prices are adjusted to reflect those. There's a slight nickel increase in breakfast.
10 cents.
10 cents, sorry. To keep pace. So I move to approve.
Second. Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Coleman.
Bob, could you say what that lunch price is and that breakfast price?
The breakfast price will move from 160 to 170. Lunch price will move from 260 for elementary to 270, and 285 to 295 for middle and high school.
And when was the last time we raised those? Did we raise those last year? I mean, you might not know about.
I know we didn't raise them last year.
They're reviewed annually.
Yeah.
They're reviewed, but I don't know if they were even raised.
Not last year.
No, part of the reason for the raise was to ensure that all of the costs of the program are being offset by the revenues, and that our revenues, what we receive in revenues for paid students, so federal aid and cash revenues from parents, is equal to or greater than the amount that we receive for free students. So,
sure.
In other words, we're not using the free meal program from USDA to subsidize everybody else. So that's how that's structured. So there may have been a cost adjustment in Fund 50 that would have increased our costs to merit increasing the revenues to offset.
Okay.
Further questions? Hearing none and having a motion and a second, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Again, back to finance for the student fees.
Student fees are the same with the exception of the removal of a couple of fees, one being the bowling fee and something else.
Yeah.
Swim?
Swim, and then a couple of courses that are no longer offered, so we're just dropping them from the fee schedule. But other than that, the fees are consistent. We worked with the building principals to ensure that the fees are being charged and are going towards consumable materials and supplies in compliance with TPI regulations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Meering. Any discussion? Hearing nothing further, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Again, back to finance for the engagement agreement, financial engagement with R.W. Baird.
This agreement is for any potential upcoming project such as a referendum. If the survey came back supported by the community and the board so chose in August to put a referendum question out there for the fall ballot, we would enter into this agreement, or we'll enter into this agreement with R.W. Baird. There is no cost associated with it unless bonds are being issued. So the support we receive between now and election time will be gratis on their part.
They're our financial advisor for this process.
Correct. But it's critically important that we have a professional financial advisor when you're dealing with these kind of numbers and how it impacts the taxpayers.
Okay. And do we have a motion?
I so moved to.
I'll second that.
Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Meering, to agree into the financial engagement agreement with R.W. Baird. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Again, back to finance for the request for the parent support groups to be included in the district insurance policy.
This came about because of the color run that Al Behrman's doing. What we're finding is that parent support groups, as they put on fundraising efforts, may need to procure liability insurance, especially when you involve the city. If you're involved in city streets, then there's an an application process, and one of the requirements is that you have adequate insurance. Rather than make all these parent groups go out and procure individual policies for individual events, by having the board approve parent support groups as a covered entity of our district policy, it becomes an umbrella that covers all of them. And so I move to approve.
Okay, so I would ask that, from the standpoint of to make this legit as far as the insurance company is concerned, I'd entertain the motion for the school district of Baraboo to recognize the following organizations as parent support groups. That's the East School Parent Support Group of East Elementary, the West Wilson Parent Support Group of the West Kindergarten Center and GLW, the North Freedom Parent Association from North Freedom Elementary, and the ABE Parent Support Group from Al Bierman Elementary.
Is there any immediate incremental cost in doing this?
No cost.
I'll second it. I have some questions. The questions I have is, obviously we have the three, but we have other parent groups that come into play from time to time. Is there some reason why we would just?
Well, right now what we're doing is the parent support groups or PTAs at all the elementary buildings, because most of those groups are essentially just the volunteers in their checkbook, and they're just trying to raise enough dollars for playground equipment or whatever else the school might need. When you get into the other organizations like youth football, youth basketball, swim program, they tend to have some of them are even legitimate organizations with board of directors, and they procure their own insurance.
Sure.
They also are providing a different level. They might have a different level of exposures. They might be transporting kids. They might be doing things that are outside of school.
Sure.
And so these groups are easily folded into our liability coverage because they're parent support groups doing things with the schools at the schools generally.
Yep.
What triggered it was this color run happens to be using city streets, so.
It's a different animal, but it's still, all of the money is being raised for Al Bierman.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and that's why we specifically name these groups instead of trying to encompass all, without understanding what all the other organizations offer and do. And
So, I mean,
liabilities.
there may be other situations that come forward. At that point, maybe we just have like an amendment or something that we add.
Or just pass a new resolution for that particular group.
Okay.
Depending on the circumstances.
Okay, that's fine.
Any further questions? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Then brings us to G, the approval of the student accident insurance, which is a yearly formality for the Baraboo School District. Again, I turn to Mr. McNevin.
Well, and I turn to those that have been on the board longer than me to see if we can remember why. The student accident insurance is a limited liability policy that covers all of our students in any of their co-curricular activities. Many school districts have it as a voluntary coverage that you offer all your students, that if you don't have health insurance or you don't have coverage, you can buy a very affordable policy that's offered by the district. And we're not the ones that offer it, we're not the ones that underwrite it. However, what Baraboo did many, many years ago is Baraboo said, you know what, instead of trying to identify those students that want to, we're just gonna cover everybody. And when you do that, you ask permission of the electorate at the annual meeting, and that's what we've done for the last 7 years that I can remember. Okay, and then we provide this coverage to everybody at no cost. It costs the district $18,000 a year, $18,000, somewhere in there.
Great.
Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've only experienced claims in the neighborhood of 7,000 or 8,000
Total, yes.
total.
Or for the last 3 full years.
So Bob goes into it and says, hey, wait a minute, this isn't that good of a deal for us. We're paying pretty good premiums and there's hardly any claims. And it turns out that, most of the limits are capped as far as what they will reimburse you for. It isn't full coverage if you blow your ACL, it's limited coverage. So when Bob, you can tell the story, Bob, better than I can. We were able to reduce the premium through one phone call. He was able to reduce the premium for a second phone call. The premium has fallen from $18,000 down to
$6,000.
$6,000.
Should make a third phone call.
Every time he picks up the phone, he's making money.
Yeah.
So start
It was
calling.
just
budget back for
I think they were scared that they were gonna lose the business. Not a lot of districts provide student accident insurance for all of the students in the district. But this has been obviously a significant reduction if we go from just under 16,000 to down to 6,000 for the premium.
And I think as we've discussed this, we think that it's still got merit for this next year to see, because of obviously the reduced cost, when it's 60% less than it used to be. The other change in law is ACA came around, and everybody's required to have procured health insurance. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has, but at least under ACA, that the affordable care was out there in the marketplace that you could or should have gone and gotten that insurance coverage. So I think probably this board bought the policy and kept the policy because there were instances where kids didn't have access to health insurance. That law has since changed, and people have access. Whether or not they took advantage of that access, I don't know. But I guess I would recommend at this point in the game to go forward, and I'd make a motion to approve the policy for this next year and review it again on a year-by-year basis.
I'll second.
Having a motion by McNevin, seconded by Meering. What's the actual anniversary date of the policy?
I believe it's August 1.
That's actually attached.
August 1.
Okay.
Again, Sean, why do you want to continue it one more year?
Well, I think it merits understanding the reasoning behind it and understanding who's relying on it. Anecdotally, I believe that hardly anybody's relying on it or even knows that the coverage is there. But it's quite possible that there's a group of people that are relying on that coverage that we don't know about or understand about. I think that 1 year buys us an opportunity to get information out, contact people, talk about this, and then announce that we'll be discontinuing it at a certain date, rather than just some certain it's over with.
Part of the challenge of this is trying to reach out to the families that have utilized or taken advantage of the insurance policy, because it's HIPAA protected. We can't know who they are under Patient Privacy Act.
But can we know that claims have been made?
And we have that history. That's how we know how much has been spent, how much the carrier has paid out relative to how much we've paid the carrier.
Okay, I mean, I'm not changing my mind on it, but maybe you could forward that information to us, so.
That was included in your packet, like the past.
Well, that would require that I read it.
Right. I wasn't gonna say anything until you said that.
Because we are in a school.
I will re-review that.
Yeah, and Mike, I guess I don't have any problem canceling the policy either.
Well, my first question actually was what you addressed first, was does anybody have enough history to know why we decided to do it?
Well, Kevin would, but he's choosing not to share that history with us.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I think it was probably more benevolent than anything else.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said ACA might have changed the terrain.
We probably had an incident 10, 12 years ago where somebody got hurt and they didn't have coverage. And we thought at that time, or the board at that time probably thought, hey, for $15,000, we can cover everybody, and then at least there's something there.
And does it covers the students in any of their activities, whether they're school-related or not? Is that true? I mean, an injury, playing in the park, in Oshner Park, that student would have health coverage, or would the student have to be hurt on a school property?
This particular policy, I'm almost positive, and I'd have to double check, but I'm almost positive it's for events that happen on school grounds or at school-sponsored events, like a student athlete in a football game gets injured and,
Yeah, if our FBLA team trips on the curb and,
In Atlanta.
in Atlanta, this policy would be there to pick them up.
Yeah.
Make sure to do it after the competition.
I see, okay.
All right.
And other school districts, I'm sorry, I don't want to
Sure.
belabor it, but other districts that don't offer this, and sounds like most districts don't, do they have a provision where if some kid comes to the district and says, I can't afford this $7?
In fact, that's required by state law, that the districts make it available for families to purchase, but no districts that I know of actually pay the premium for the individual family. So it's required that it's made available. Districts can only lay out district funds for it if it's been approved at the annual meeting, which this was approved last fall at the annual meeting. So in terms of like a fee waiver kind of thing for somebody, no. Because it's a relationship between the individual family and the insurance company. We just have to put, the districts only have to put the information out.
So to meet the requirement, Bob, in the future, if we decided to terminate the policy and make it voluntary, is essentially at the beginning of the school year, you have brochures out on a table?
Yeah, we'd be sending the boxes of brochures to every school to set out, as part of registration or sitting out, in the office.
We would have to collect, then, insurance forms from all of the students taking part in sports that we don't have to collect now because we know that our district covers them? Is there gonna be a bunch of paperwork and monitoring that we would have to do that we don't have to do now?
You don't have to track waivers.
Okay. I'm just asking.
But I mean, as of right
Bunch
now,
of paperwork.
but as of right now, we do have student fees for athletics, but there may be support groups that are paying some of those fees. At this point. I'm talking,
I would defer to Jim on that. I don't believe that's the case. If we have students that,
I mean,
we're
the school district isn't
walking off
paying
into
it.
a different topic. If we have a student that is not able to pay fees, we have a process in place if they qualify as an indigent student and to waive those fees.
Yeah, and the same thing might pull into this too. I mean,
No, because this is an independent relationship between the families and the carrier. If the district is not paying for it, all we have to do is hand out the information, make the information available.
Sure.
Which is what we used to do. I don't know at what time frame it was changed. But if you had kids in the district 10 years ago, you probably remember the brochures being on the table.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to H, approval of board members to present diplomas at the high school graduation, which is on May the 27th. Do any board members have a specific interest or would like to be here on that Friday night to present diplomas?
I would believe that you do.
I would. My son's walking across the stage.
You gotta
Then
do
you gotta
it.
do it.
It's pretty neat when you get to give your kid.
No, that would be great.
Yeah. I don't need.
I'm out of town.
Yeah. I move to have Mike be our representative on top of you.
It's fine with me.
Do you need a second on that?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Good timing on that election.
Then you should resign right after graduation.
Don't work that way.
Thus brings us to I, discussion and possible action on the administration building options. I had a conversation earlier today with General Engineering. They're the ones that are working on the inspection for the two properties that were earlier identified. He has made contact with both parties. I expect to have the completed inspection of both of those buildings back relatively soon, and we will try to incorporate that into a BG&T meeting as soon as possible. We have one scheduled for
May 9th.
May the 9th, so certainly no later than that, if not before. Also, just to let the board know, there was another property that was brought forward by the owner of that property, wishes to remain anonymous at this point due to the fact of it being a business, and they didn't want the viability of the business question if they were looking at selling the building. But that building is not a viable option based on looking at some of the criteria, the age of the building being the primary concern. It would involve an entire new set of cost analysis for upgrades to the building and a significant amount of remodeling to that building. So if somebody hears about it, that was looked into and at this point isn't a viable option. So when we have some more information in that regard, which will certainly be forthcoming and probably by the next board meeting, we can have a further discussion about where we're at with the inspections. Any other questions on that? Hearing none, then I'd like to move on to Jay, and I will turn it over to Mr. McNevin.
Surveys. Surveys are going out. It's going to be awesome.
Surveys are always awesome.
It is. It's really exciting. It's a long time coming to get to this point, to find out, to see if we're on the right track and to get the feedback we're looking for. We continue to try to get the word out. If anybody's got a group that would like to learn more or have some questions of us, we're certainly available. Lori took the liberty of going to the Fairwood Library Board. That's generated some further conversations. And we were at the Fairwood Area Senior Center today and rocked that presentation with the feisty group. And so that was kind of fun, but we continue to meet and greet and get the word out. So we're waiting now on the surveys to come back and find out.
There's mine today.
Yeah, did you get yours today?
Yeah.
A hard copy or
No, I took
email?
it up. Mhm.
Okay, all right, so should be coming out.
Thank you for the update. All right, that brings us then to executive closed session. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session according to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub C and sub F for the purpose as noted.
I move to go into closed session.
Second.
Motion by Meering, seconded by McNevin. Roll call, Coleman.
Here.
Aye.
Aye.
McNevin.
Aye.
Meering.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
Bodak. Aye.